Freedom, I learned, doesn't arrive with sunlight or open roads. It arrives inside rooms like this, rooms with polished black tables, men in suits who don't blink, and a pen that feels heavier than a weapon. The conference room on the 38th floor smelled like expensive paper and cold air conditioning. Somewhere outside these tinted windows, the city hummed like it didn't know what kind of decisions were being made above it. I sat with my spine straight and my hands folded, trying to look like a woman in control of her life. Across from me sat Victor Moretti, my husband of 5 years. The man who could end someone's career with a phone call and end someone's breathing with a nod. Even now, even in a legal office with lawyers present, he carried that same stillness, danger disguised as composure. To anyone watching, this could have been a normal divorce meeting. A wealthy couple, 2 attorneys, a stack of documents. But the illusion failed in the details. The 2 men stationed at the door, pretending to be assistants while their jackets bulged in the wrong places. The 3rd man by the wall whose eyes scanned every shadow. The fact that Victor's lawyer spoke with the careful tone of someone delivering news to a king. "Mrs. Moretti," the lawyer said, sliding a folder toward me, "we've reviewed the final settlement. If you'll sign on page 7 and initial the attachments." Mrs. Moretti. A title that had wrapped around me like silk and barbed wire. I didn't open the folder. I knew the terms already. Victor had made sure I would. The penthouse in Boston. The vacation property in Italy. A quiet monthly payment that would let me live comfortably anywhere on earth. I didn't want his money. I wanted my name back. My breath back. My choices back. Victor picked up the pen first. He didn't look at me. He didn't hesitate. His hand moved across the paper in a clean, practiced signature, as if he were approving a business contract instead of dismantling a marriage. The sound of ink on paper scratched through the silence like a blade. He slid the folder toward the lawyers. Still no glance my way. I waited for something. Anger, softness, regret. A flicker of the man who used to touch my hair when he thought I was sleeping. But Victor gave me nothing. In his world, emotion was a luxury. Control was religion. "Your turn," he said. His voice didn't rise. That was what made it worse. Victor's quiet voice was the voice he used when ordering doors locked. When ordering someone removed. When deciding that a conversation was over. I reached for the pen. My fingers betrayed me with a tremor. Not because I doubted myself, but because my body remembered what my mind tried to ignore. The first time I realized the front gates didn't open unless Victor allowed it. The day my passport vanished from my drawer. The driver who never took his eyes off me even when I went to buy groceries. The moment I understood that his love wasn't soft. It was possessive, carved from fear and power. I hovered the pen over the signature line. Just sign, I told myself. Just sign and walk away. You planned this. You survived this long. Don't fall apart now. The lawyer cleared his throat. Is there a problem, Mrs. Moretti? I looked up. Victor's eyes met mine for the first time that day. Dark. Sharp. Unreadable. Like the ocean at night. Beautiful, vast, and hiding something hungry beneath the surface. The room seemed to tighten around us. I swallowed. My throat felt too dry for truth. Yes, I said softly. There is. Victor's jaw flexed once. We've agreed on the terms, he said. There is nothing left. There is, I repeated, forcing my voice not to break. Before I sign, there's something you should know. The air changed. Even the men along the walls shifted slightly, alert in a way they tried to hide. Victor leaned back, folding his hands as if he had all the time in the world. This isn't the place for drama, Elena. My name in his mouth still did something to me, even after everything. It made my heart ache and my stomach drop at the same time. It's not drama, I whispered. It's reality. Victor's gaze didn't move. Speak. The pen slipped a little in my grip. I steadied it against the table, then looked him in the eye. I'm pregnant. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then everything did. One lawyer's face went blank. The other froze with his hand half raised. One of the guards exhaled sharply, like he'd been punched. The silence turned solid, thick as stone. Victor didn't blink. He didn't react like a man surprised. He reacted like a man calculating. Like a man watching a door close in slow motion. "Everyone out," he said. The lawyer stammered. "Mr. Moretti, we can." "Out." One word. No volume. Total authority. Within seconds, the room emptied. The heavy door shut. The lock clicked. And suddenly it was just me, Victor, and the papers between us like a battlefield. "You're lying," he said quietly. I reached into my bag with shaking hands and pulled out the envelope I'd been carrying like a grenade. The doctor's report, the blood work, the ultrasound printout. I laid them on the table, sliding them toward him. Victor's eyes dropped. His pupils tightened slightly as he read. "How far?" he asked, voice still too calm. 12 weeks, I said. His hand didn't touch the papers. Not yet. He stared as if the ink might change if he waited long enough. "And you plan to leave," he said, "with my child." "It's my child too," I whispered. Victor stood. The chair scraped the floor in a sharp, brutal sound. He walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back, shoulders rigid. Then he spoke without turning. "You thought this would make me let you go?" I swallowed hard. "I thought you deserved to know before I signed." Victor turned slowly. His eyes were colder now. Not angry. Not wild. Worse, certain. "Nothing belongs to you alone anymore," he said, stepping closer. "Not when you're carrying my blood." My chest tightened. "This doesn't mean I'm staying." Victor's gaze didn't soften. "It means," he said, voice low, "you're not leaving." And before I could respond, he reached for the divorce papers, already signed by him, and tore them cleanly in half. The sound snapped through the room. My breath caught. Victor let the pieces fall like dead leaves, then looked at me as if the world had just shifted into place. "This," he said, "changes everything." The door opened at his signal, and his head of security stepped inside. Victor didn't take his eyes off me as he gave the order. "Bring the car," he said. "Elena is coming home." And in that moment, I understood the cruelest truth. I hadn't walked into this room to end a marriage. I'd walked into it to trigger a war. The ride down the private elevator felt like sinking through layers of the earth. Victor stood beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of him, but he didn't touch me. That was his cruelty and his discipline in one. He didn't need to grab my arm to prove I couldn't leave. He just needed to exist in my space like gravity. Luca waited in the lobby, with two men I didn't recognize. All three wore suits, but their posture gave them away. Not corporate. Not legal. Soldiers in silk. Luca's eyes flicked to my face, then to Victor. "Boss." Victor's voice was controlled. "We're going to the townhouse." "No," I said immediately, louder than I intended. Victor didn't even turn. "Yes." I stepped forward, forcing myself to face him. "I'm not your prisoner." His eyes finally found mine. "You're not a prisoner," he said. "You're a target." "I didn't ask to be part of your war," I shot back. "You married into it," he replied, and there was no softness in the reminder. I hated that he was right, and I hated even more that I hadn't understood what that meant until I was already trapped. At 24, I thought power was something you could flirt with, something you could stand near and borrow warmth from. Victor's power wasn't warmth. It was fire that consumed oxygen. "Let me go to my apartment," I said, pushing for reason. "I'll stay hidden. I'll be careful. You can give me security without locking me up." Victor's gaze sharpened. "Your apartment has windows. A doorman. Cameras you don't control. Neighbors who talk. It's not safe." "Safe," I echoed bitterly. "You've used that word like a chain." Victor's jaw tightened. "And you've used freedom like it's a fairy tale." We reached the car, black, silent, too expensive to be real. The driver didn't speak. Luca opened the door as if I were royalty. The gesture made my stomach turn. In Victor's world, even containment came wrapped in manners. I slid into the back seat. Victor followed, sitting across from me instead of beside me, his posture relaxed in a way that felt staged. Like he was reminding me, I don't need to rush. I already have you. The car pulled away. Boston lights blurred past the tinted windows. The city looked beautiful when you weren't living in its shadows. On the sidewalk, couples walked with coffee cups, laughing. A woman stepped into a taxi, carefree, head tilted back in a smile. I felt like I was watching a different species. "Victor," I said, forcing my voice steady, "you can't keep me locked up for 9 months." His eyes flicked up. "I'm not keeping you locked up." I stared at him. "Then what do you call this?" He didn't answer at first. His gaze traveled over my face, pausing at the edge of my mouth, the line of my jaw, like he was measuring the distance between us, how far I'd fallen out of his control, how far he'd need to pull. "You're scared," he said finally. "Of you," I snapped. A flicker crossed his face. Not surprise, acceptance. Like he'd expected that answer, like he'd earned it. "You weren't always," he said quietly. That made my throat tighten, because it was true. There was a time I looked at him and saw safety in his intensity. A time I confused obsession with devotion. A time I thought his control was care. Then I learned about the men who came to the house at midnight. The coded phone calls. The locked office on the 3rd floor. The night he came home with blood on his cuff and told me it was not mine to worry about. "Don't do that," I said, voice shaking. "Don't talk like we were something sweet." Victor's eyes hardened. "We were real." "Real doesn't mean healthy," I whispered. He leaned back, silent. The car's engine became the only sound. The silence was worse than shouting. It gave my mind space to spiral into fear. At the townhouse, the gates opened without a guard appearing. Cameras tracked the car like eyes. The garage door lifted smoothly, swallowing us into darkness. Inside, the townhouse felt exactly as it always had, impossibly elegant, expensive art, soft lighting, the faint scent of lemon polish. It should have felt like home once. Now it felt like a museum where the exhibits were my memories and the exits were sealed. As soon as we entered, I noticed the difference. There were more people. A woman in medical scrubs stood near the foyer. Another man in a suit held a tablet. Someone I didn't recognize walked past, speaking quietly into an earpiece. My chest tightened. "What is this?" Victor's voice remained calm. "Precaution." "You called a doctor," I said, accusation rising. "It's standard," he replied. "You'll be evaluated. You'll be monitored." Monitored. The word was a slap. "I'm not livestock," I said through clenched teeth. Victor stepped closer, his presence tightening the air. "You're carrying something that belongs to my bloodline." "Stop saying belongs," I snapped. "A baby isn't property." Victor's eyes sharpened, and for a split second, his control slipped. "In my world, everything is leverage. Everything is a risk. And you." His gaze dropped to my stomach, then returned to my face. "You are both." I felt my hands tremble. I pressed them against my sides to hide it. The nurse approached carefully. "Mrs. Moretti, I'll just take your blood pressure." "I'm not signing that name anymore," I said, too sharply. "Not after today." The nurse froze, glancing at Victor. Victor's voice was measured. "Just your job." I hated that he didn't correct her. Hated that he didn't give me that tiny dignity. Then again, he'd shredded my divorce papers with the same calm. Why would he give me anything now? The nurse guided me to a sitting area. The cuff tightened around my arm. I stared at the wall, refusing to look at Victor as he spoke quietly with Luca. I caught pieces of it. Leak. Who knew? Clinic. Confirm route changes. My stomach nodded. Leak meant someone else knew. Someone had found out about the divorce. About the pregnancy. About my attempt to leave. When the nurse finished, she handed Victor a clipboard.
He didn't look at it. He didn't need to.
He was already thinking ahead, already building walls. "You're staying in the townhouse," he said. "No," I replied instantly. Victor's eyes met mine. "Elena." The way he said my name made it sound like an order, like a lock turning. "I'll stay in a hotel," I said. "Somewhere private. I'll accept security, real security. But I'm not staying here with your men watching me breathe." Victor took a slow step toward me. His calm was more frightening than violence because it meant he'd already decided. "You're not staying in a hotel," he said softly. "Hotels have staff that can be bribed. Elevators. Cameras. Weak points. And this place doesn't." I shot back. Victor's mouth curved into something sharp. "This place is mine." I laughed once, bitter and broken. "Exactly." He stared at me for a long moment, and something in his expression shifted. Not tenderness, not apology, but a kind of grim truth. "You think I'm doing this to punish you," he said. "I'm doing this because someone out there heard you were leaving, and they will come to see if the Moretti name can bleed." My spine went cold. "Who?" Victor didn't answer directly. He looked at Luca instead. "Check the perimeter again." Luca nodded and stepped away. Victor turned back to me. "Go upstairs. Rest." "I'm not." His voice sharpened by 1 degree. "Elena." I flinched, and his eyes caught it. For a moment, the tiniest crack appeared, something like regret. Then it vanished. I stood, slowly, refusing to let him see how shaken I was. I walked upstairs, each step heavy, like the house itself pulled me back. The bedroom door was open. Inside, I found my suitcase, already unpacked. My clothes hung in the closet. My toiletries lined the bathroom counter. Even my favorite sweater, the one I'd left at my apartment, was folded neatly on the bed like someone had planned for my arrival. My throat tightened. Victor stepped into the doorway behind me. "You are prepared for this," I whispered, horrified. His gaze held mine. "I prepare for everything. And my choice." I asked, "Where does that fit in your preparation?" He didn't answer. Instead, he moved closer, lowering his voice until it felt like a secret and a threat at the same time. "You can hate me," he said. "You can fight me, but you will stay alive." A sudden sharp sound echoed from somewhere below, metallic, like a gate slamming, followed by a voice shouting. Victor's head snapped toward the hallway. Luca's voice came through the earpiece, tense and urgent. "Boss," Luca said, "we have someone at the front gate, and she's asking for Elena by name." My heart dropped, because I knew that voice even before Luca said the next words. "It's your sister," he added. "And she's not alone." My heart slammed so hard it hurt. "My sister?" I whispered. "Nora is here?" Victor's face hardened instantly, every trace of softness wiped clean. He turned away from me, already issuing orders. "Luca, lock the outer gate. No one enters." I stepped toward him. "Victor, don't do this. She doesn't belong in your world." "She walked into it," he replied without looking at me. "That's not fair," I snapped. "She came because she's worried about me." Victor finally faced me, and that worry will get her killed if I don't control the situation. I pushed past him, moving toward the stairs. "I need to see her." Victor caught my wrist. Not roughly, but firmly enough that there was no mistaking the message. "No," he said. "You will not go downstairs." I yanked my arm free. "You don't get to decide who I see." Victor's voice dropped. "Right now, I do." The sound of raised voices drifted up from below. I recognized Nora's tone instantly. Sharp, trembling, furious. Panic rose in my chest like fire. "She's scared," I said. "Listen to her." Victor's jaw tightened. He lifted a finger to his earpiece. "Put her on the exterior camera." A screen on the wall flickered to life. Nora stood outside the iron gate, hair pulled back messily, eyes red. 2 men flanked her, too close, too attentive. They didn't look like Victor's people. "Who are they?" I demanded. Victor studied them with a predator's focus. "Not mine." One of the men leaned toward Nora, whispering something. She shook her head violently, glancing toward the house like she could sense me watching. "Open the gate," Nora shouted. "Elena, I know you're in there." My chest tightened painfully. "Victor, please." Victor raised a hand, silencing me. He pressed a button. "Nora Petro." Luca's voice echoed from the intercom. "You need to step away from the gate." Nora stepped closer instead. "I'm not leaving without my sister." Victor leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Ask her who told her to come." Luca obeyed. Who sent you, Nora? Nora hesitated. Just a second too long. No one, she said quickly. I came on my own. Victor exhaled through his nose. She's lying. I shook my head. She wouldn't. Victor cut me off. She already is. One of the men beside Nora shifted, hand brushing his jacket. My stomach dropped. He's armed, Victor said calmly. My breath caught. What? Victor pressed another button. Snipers, eyes on target. Do not fire unless I give the order. Snipers. The word echoed in my skull. Victor, I whispered, terror seeping into my voice. This has gone too far. He didn't look at me. It went too far the moment someone realized you mattered enough to use. Outside, Nora suddenly jerked forward, pulling away from the men. One of them grabbed her arm. She screamed. Stop, I cried. Victor moved instantly. Now. The gate opened just enough for Nora to stumble through. The men backed away immediately, hands raised, retreating into the darkness beyond the streetlight. The gate slammed shut. Nora ran up the path, sobbing. Luca met her halfway, blocking her gently but firmly. Easy. Where is she? Nora shouted. Where's Elena? I broke free from Victor and ran downstairs. Elena! Nora screamed when she saw me. She rushed into my arms, clinging to me like a child. I wrapped my arms around her, shaking. I'm here, I whispered. I'm okay. She pulled back, hands gripping my shoulders. No, you're not. He's keeping you. Victor stepped into view behind me. Nora's eyes flashed with fury. You. Victor's voice was calm. Nora. She rounded on him. You don't get to say my name like that. You don't get to decide her life. Victor didn't raise his voice. You brought danger to my door. Nora's face crumpled. I didn't know. They said. My heart skipped. They said what? Nora swallowed. They said if I came here, if I got inside, they could help you disappear. Victor's eyes turned lethal. They used you, he said flatly. Nora shook her head, horrified. I swear I didn't know who they were. I believe you, I said quickly. Victor didn't argue. He didn't need to. His focus was already elsewhere. A sharp crack rang out. Glass shattered somewhere on the side of the townhouse. I screamed. Victor moved in front of me instantly, his body shielding mine. Inside. Now, he ordered. More shots followed, controlled, distant. Return fire. Luca grabbed Nora. Move. We were rushed down a hallway, doors slamming shut behind us. My heart pounded so violently I thought I might pass out. Victor's hand pressed firmly against my back as we reached a reinforced room. Thick door, no windows. Stay here, he said. I'm not leaving Nora, I protested. She stays, he agreed. You stay. I don't. He turned to leave. Victor, I cried. Don't. He paused, looking at me with something raw and unreadable. They came for you, he said quietly. Which means they'll keep coming. Then he was gone. The door sealed. Nora stared at me, trembling. What did you marry into? I sank onto the floor, pulling her with me. A world I tried to escape. Minutes passed. Maybe more. Every sound made me flinch. Then silence. The door finally opened. Victor stepped inside, face cold, eyes darker than I'd ever seen. It's over, he said. Nora exhaled shakily. Are they? Gone, Victor replied. He didn't elaborate. I stared at him. Who sent them? Victor's jaw tightened. Someone who heard you were leaving. And the baby? I whispered. Victor's gaze dropped to my stomach. That made it urgent. My blood ran cold. Victor turned to Luca. Prepare the convoy. Where are we going? I asked, dread rising. Victor met my eyes. To the one place no one will challenge me, he said. And where is that? Nora whispered. Victor's voice was iron. My family estate. And I knew, in my bones, that whatever waited for us there would be worse than gunfire. The convoy moved like a living creature, black vehicles breathing in sync, headlights cutting through the night like blades. I sat in the back seat between Victor and Nora. Nora's fingers were white-knuckled around her phone, even though it had no signal. She kept looking out the window, as if the dark trees might suddenly turn into men with guns. Victor didn't speak. He didn't reassure. He didn't explain.
He watched.
That was the thing about Victor Moretti. He didn't need comfort the way normal men did. He needed control the way drowning people needed air. And tonight, after the townhouse attack, he clung to control like it was the only thing separating us from chaos. I tried to breathe steadily, one hand resting on my stomach, as if my palm could become a shield. My baby, our baby, was still too new to feel, too small for kicks or flutters. But the fear for it was already huge, expanding in my chest until it crowded everything else. Nora leaned close to me, whispering, "Elena, you can't stay with him. You can't." I kept my eyes forward. "Not now." "What do you mean not now?" she hissed. "Did you see what happened? People tried to shoot their way into your life like it was nothing." I swallowed. "That's why not now." Nora stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "You think staying with him makes you safer?" Victor's voice cut in, low and flat. "It does." Nora's head snapped toward him. "You don't get to." Victor turned slightly, and the look he gave her was so controlled, so cold, that Nora stopped mid-sentence. He wasn't threatening her directly. He didn't need to. His presence was a warning in itself. Nora turned back to me, shaken. "Elena." I exhaled slowly. "Nora, you came tonight because you believe someone. Someone who used you." Her face twisted with guilt. I know. But I only came because I thought you were trapped." "I am," I said softly. "Just not in the way you think." The cars turned off the highway and onto a narrower road lined with tall pines. The darkness deepened. The air felt colder through the glass, as if the forest itself held its breath. Then, in the distance, iron gates appeared, massive, black, tall enough to make me feel small even from inside the vehicle. Cameras were mounted along the pillars like watchful eyes. The gate opened without anyone stepping into view. Victor's estate didn't welcome people. It allowed them. Nora's voice trembled. "This is his family estate?" Victor's jaw tightened. "Yes." I stared as we passed through. Stone walls rose behind the gates, thick and high. Not decorative. Defensive. The driveway curled upward like a path into a fortress. And then the house came into view. It wasn't a house. It was a statement. Heavy stone, narrow windows, deep shadows beneath the roofline. It looked like it had been built to survive fires and wars and the passing of centuries. It looked like something that could swallow a person whole. My stomach tightened. Victor's shoulders grew even more rigid, like being here pulled old memories out of him whether he wanted them or not. As the car stopped in the circular drive, a woman stepped out into the light. Adriana. I'd met her only twice in 5 years. Both times, she had smiled at me like she was measuring my bones. Victor had never said it aloud, but I'd always understood. Adriana wasn't just family. She was authority. In certain rooms, she outranked him. She approached the car before anyone could open the door, her posture elegant, her expression composed. "Victor," she said, voice smooth as silk. Victor got out first. "Adriana." Her gaze slid past him to me and Nora. The faintest lift of her brows. Interest. Calculation. "So," she murmured, "you've brought guests." Victor's voice was sharp. "This isn't a social call." Adriana smiled slightly. "None of yours ever are." Luca opened my door. I stepped out slowly, the cold night air biting through my coat. Nora followed, visibly uneasy. Adriana's eyes landed on my stomach. "Elena," she said softly, like my name was a secret. "Congratulations." The word sounded less like warmth and more like possession. Victor moved a fraction closer to me, as if he could block Adriana's gaze with his body. "She's staying here until I say otherwise." Adriana's smile sharpened. "Of course. Family is safest here." Nora bristled. "Family?" Adriana's eyes flicked to Nora. "And you are?" "Nora," she said, chin lifted. "Her sister." Adriana's smile didn't reach her eyes. How inconvenient. Nora's face flushed. Excuse me? Victor cut in. Nora will leave in the morning. Nora stared at him. I'm not leaving Elena. Victor's voice was ice. You are. I stepped forward, trying to keep the peace. Nora, please. No, Nora snapped. Don't please me. You're scared. I can see it. Adriana watched us like she was watching a play. Then she said lightly, come inside. We can argue where it's warm. We were escorted through the front doors. The interior was darker than the townhouse, older. The air smelled like polished wood and something faintly metallic, like cold iron. Portraits lined the walls, stern men with hard eyes, women with tight smiles. Legacy stared down from every angle. Nora leaned close to me, whispering, this place is wrong.
I didn't disagree.
I just didn't have the luxury to say it. Adriana led us to a sitting room with a fireplace already lit. Someone had prepared for our arrival. Of course they had. Victor remained standing, refusing the comfort of a chair. He looked like a man bracing for impact. Adriana poured herself a drink without asking anyone else. I hear, she said casually. You were about to become a free woman today. My pulse spiked. Victor's gaze sharpened. Don't start. Adriana took a sip. I'm only stating facts. Divorce papers signed. Then Elena reveals a secret. Her eyes flicked to my stomach again. A very valuable secret. I forced my voice steady. My baby is not currency. Adriana smiled. Everything is currency. Especially in our world. Victor's voice turned low. You're not touching her. Adriana looked amused. Touch her? Victor, please. I'm not a monster. But her eyes said something else. I don't need to touch to control. Nora stepped forward. If you're all so concerned about safety, why were men shooting at her? Why is she even a target? Adriana's gaze shifted to Victor. That is the question, isn't it? Victor's jaw clenched. Someone leaked the divorce. Adriana's expression hardened slightly. And the pregnancy. My throat tightened. How do you know about the pregnancy? Adriana's smile returned, thin, knowing. Victor isn't the only one with eyes. A chill crawled up my spine. Victor's voice sharpened. I brought her here, so you wouldn't interfere. Adriana laughed softly. Interfere? Victor, you brought her here because you ran out of options. Victor's hands curled into fists. This is my decision. Adriana stepped closer, her voice still calm, but suddenly heavier.
No.
This is a family decision now. Victor went very still. I felt it, the shift in the room. Like everyone invisible beyond the walls was listening. Like the estate itself had rules Victor couldn't break without paying a price. Adriana's eyes met mine. Tell me, Elena, she said softly, did you truly think you could leave a Moretti while carrying a Moretti? My stomach tightened. I don't belong to him. Adriana's smile widened just a fraction. You might not, but the child does. Victor's voice was dangerously quiet. Stop. Adriana ignored him and turned slightly, addressing the room as if delivering a verdict. This baby changes everything, she said. And if enemies know, they will come again. Which means we must decide how far we're willing to go to protect the bloodline. Nora's voice trembled with anger. What does that mean? Adriana's gaze was icy. It means Elena will not be leaving this estate until the child is born. My breath caught. No, I said, panic rising. Victor looked at Adriana, and for the first time tonight, his control cracked enough to show fury. She will leave, he said, each word carved. When I allow it. Adriana's smile didn't fade. That's the thing, Victor, she murmured. In this house, you don't always get to allow. And in that moment, I understood. I hadn't escaped a cage. I'd been transferred to a stronger one. I didn't sleep. The guest room Adriana assigned me was beautiful in a cold, untouched way. Stone fireplace, heavy curtains, antique furniture that looked like it had never been used by anyone who laughed. But the beauty didn't calm me. It sharpened my fear, because it reminded me that this house wasn't built for comfort. It was built to endure. Nora was placed in the room across the hall, guarded for her safety, which meant guarded for Victor's control. I heard her pacing through the night, heard her whispering angrily to herself, heard her knock softly once and stop when a guard shifted outside. Victor didn't come to my door. That was the first thing that told me he wasn't fully in charge here. If we were in the townhouse, he would have checked on me, even if only to reassert authority. He would have stood in my doorway and said, "Rest," like a command. He would have made sure the locks were where he wanted them. Here, something kept him away. At dawn, Adriana's staff brought me tea, without asking if I wanted it. Ginger, warm, prepared like someone already knew my nausea would arrive with the morning. That small detail made my skin crawl. Someone had been tracking me longer than I realized. When the sun finally climbed over the trees and poured pale light through the curtains, I got dressed slowly, deliberately. Not in the clothes laid out for me. Those felt like a costume the estate wanted me to wear. I chose my own sweater, my own pants, my own shoes. I braided my hair back like armor. Then I left the room. 2 guards straightened immediately. They didn't block me. That was the point. It wasn't a jail with bars. It was a place where every hallway was watched and every choice was silently recorded. I found Victor in a long corridor lined with portraits. He stood alone, staring at one painting in particular. A man with a severe face and eyes like knives. Victor's father. I'd seen the portrait before, years ago, but I'd never seen Victor look at it for more than a second. Now he stood there as if the painting had gravity. "Victor," I said softly. He didn't turn right away. "You shouldn't be out here." "I'm not a child," I replied. He finally looked at me. His eyes were tired. Not sleepy tired, war tired. "This estate isn't safe for you," he said. I almost laughed. "That's what you said about everything else." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I brought you here to protect you from enemies. I didn't bring you here to hand you to my aunt." My stomach tightened. "So, Adriana is my enemy now?" Victor's jaw flexed. "Adriana is loyal to the family, but her loyalty has a cost." "And what's the cost?" I asked. Victor's eyes darkened. "Control. Total control." A cold chill slid over my skin. "She wants to keep me here until the baby is born." Victor didn't deny it. She said it in front of me. I pressed, anger rising. "And you didn't stop her." Victor's gaze sharpened. "Do you think I didn't try?" The edge in his voice made me pause. "You obeyed her last night," I said carefully. "At dinner. You sat when she told you to sit." Victor's mouth tightened. For a second, something like shame flickered across his face, quickly swallowed by restraint. "In this house," he said slowly, "there are rules older than me." "That's unacceptable," I snapped. "You brought me into a prison where you're not even the warden." Victor's eyes flashed. "I brought you into a fortress because bullets broke your windows. And now your family is breaking my life," I shot back. His hand lifted, stopped as if he wanted to touch my shoulder, and remembered that touch could be a weapon. "Elena." "No," I said. "I'm done letting men decide what happens to my body. To my child." Victor's gaze dropped to my stomach. "It's my child too. And I'm the one carrying it," I said sharply. "So you will listen." For a moment, he looked at me like he was seeing me again. Not as a possession, not as a wife on paper, but as a woman with her own will. It made his expression tighten, like the recognition hurt. "I am listening," he said quietly. "But I need you to understand what you don't see." I folded my arms. "Then show me." Victor hesitated. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He tapped twice, then held it out to me. On the screen was a photograph. Me. At the clinic. 3 weeks ago, walking through the front doors in a gray coat, head lowered. My blood turned cold. "How?" I started. Victor's voice was iron. "They've been watching you." He swiped. Another photo appeared. Nora at the gate. Last night, frozen mid-step, the 2 men behind her like shadows. A message thread beneath it, the words sharp and ugly. "She's pregnant. He won't let her go." "Good. Then we pull her until he bleeds." I felt nauseated. Not from pregnancy. From realization. They knew, I whispered. Victor's eyes didn't blink. Before I did, my throat went dry. How could anyone know? Victor's voice lowered. Because someone close to you spoke. My heart stuttered. The only people who knew I was filing for divorce were... I stopped. Victor watched my face like a hawk. Finish it. My lawyer, I whispered. Victor's jaw clenched. And I swallowed hard. My sister. But she didn't know about the baby until last night. Victor nodded slowly, grim. Your lawyer is the leak.
Panic flooded my chest.
She can't. Confidentiality. Victor's mouth curved into a humorless line. Confidentiality is paper. Paper burns. I stared at the phone again, the messages, the photos. Someone had been monitoring my steps, recording my life like a map. Who are they? I asked, voice shaking. Victor's gaze turned darker. A rival crew. Not one of the small ones. Someone bold enough to test my defenses. And they used Nora, I whispered. Victor's voice was cold. Yes. My hands trembled. Then why not go to the police? Victor's eyes sharpened. Because the police are a battlefield too. I stared at him. Then what do we do? Victor's expression tightened. We remove every weakness. My stomach clenched. What does that mean? Victor leaned closer, voice low. It means no more half measures. No more pretending we can live like normal people while enemies watch from the dark. You mean I stay here? I said bitterly. Victor's jaw flexed. For now. For now, I echoed, furious. That's what you always say. For now becomes forever with you. He didn't argue. That was worse. A door opened at the end of the corridor. Adriana appeared, dressed impeccably, holding a folder as if she was walking into a board meeting. Her eyes flicked to the phone in my hands. Showing her the evidence, she asked lightly. Victor's voice turned sharp. This is between us. Adriana smiled. Nothing is between us when blood is involved. She stepped closer, the folder held out. These are the new arrangements, she said. I didn't take it. Victor did. His eyes scanned the pages. His expression hardened with every line. No, Victor said. Adriana's smile remained. Yes. Victor's voice turned deadly quiet. You are not taking her decisions. Adriana's gaze went icy. Then you should have married a woman who didn't try to leave. My throat tightened. I tried to leave because your world is poison. Adriana looked at me like I was an amusing insect. Poison keeps predators away. Victor stepped forward, blocking her view of me. I said no. Adriana's voice stayed calm, and that calm was terrifying. You're not the only one being tested, Victor. Your rivals aren't just sending bullets. They're sending messages. If they see you divided, if they see the mother of your child not secured, they'll come again. And next time, they won't miss. My blood went cold. Victor's fist clenched around the folder. You think fear will make me obey you. Adriana's smile sharpened. Fear already did. Last night. Victor's eyes flashed with fury. A guard rushed in from the corridor, breathless. Mr. Moretti, he said, we just received a delivery at the outer gate. Victor's posture stiffened. From who? The guard swallowed. No return name. But it's addressed to Elena. My stomach dropped. Victor's eyes locked on mine. And I knew, deep in my bones, that the war had followed us here. The package sat on the long table in Adriana's study like a quiet threat. It was small, no bigger than a shoebox, wrapped in plain brown paper, sealed with thick tape, and addressed in neat block letters. Elena Moretti. Not Elena Petro. Not Elena, anything else. The name I'd been trying to leave behind, used like a hook to drag me back. Victor stood beside the table, Luca behind him, 2 guards at the door. Adriana lounged near the fireplace with her drink, watching as if this were entertainment. Open it, Adriana said. Victor's eyes never left the box.
No.
Adriana's smile barely shifted. If you don't open it, you won't know what they want. Victor's voice was sharp. I already know what they want. They want to see me react. I swallowed, my mouth dry. It's for me. Victor turned his head slightly toward me. That's the point. Luca stepped closer. Boss, we can scan it. X-ray. Chemical test. Victor nodded once. Do it.
Now.
One of the guards carried the box out of the room carefully, as if it might explode from disrespect alone. The door shut behind him. The room went still except for the soft crackle of fire. Adriana's gaze slid to me. You're pale. I'm fine. I lied. Adriana tilted her head. Pregnancy makes women fragile, emotional. It makes them do foolish things. Victor's eyes flicked to her. Enough. Adriana lifted her glass in mock innocence. I'm only observing. I couldn't stop myself. You're enjoying this. Adriana's smile widened. Enjoying?
No.
I prefer certainty. This, she gestured toward the closed door, is uncertainty. I dislike it. Victor stepped closer to me, lowering his voice. Don't engage her. I laughed softly, bitter. You brought me into her house. Engagement wasn't optional. Victor's jaw tightened. I didn't plan for this. Then what did you plan? I demanded, unable to hold it in anymore. Because all I see is you pulling me deeper and deeper and deeper into a world that keeps taking pieces of me. Victor's eyes met mine. For a moment, the mask slipped. Something dark and raw moved behind his composure. I plan to let you go, he said quietly. The words hit me like cold water. Adriana's eyes sharpened. Victor. He ignored her. He was looking only at me. I signed because I thought I was doing the only thing I could do for you, he continued. I thought giving you money and distance would keep you alive. I hated it, but I did it. My throat tightened, and then I said I was pregnant. Victor's gaze dropped to my stomach, then returned to my face. And then, he said softly, I realized letting you go would be the same as handing my child to the wolves. I whispered, You don't trust me. His jaw flexed. It's not about trust. It's about what happens when people know you exist. Adriana stepped forward. Romantic explanations won't solve this, she said coolly. We need strategy. Victor's eyes turned hard. Your strategy is to lock her away until birth. Adriana didn't blink. Yes. And after that? I asked, voice shaking. After I give birth, what then? Do you lock the child too? Do you lock me forever? Adriana's smile was thin, if necessary. A sick heat rose in my chest. You're insane. Adriana's gaze went icy.
No.
I'm realistic. In this family, motherhood has always meant sacrifice. Victor's voice dropped like a blade. You will not speak of motherhood like that. Adriana tilted her head.
Why?
Because you want to pretend you're different from your father? Victor went very still. The air felt tighter. You don't get to use him as a weapon, Victor said. Adriana's smile sharpened. But he is the reason you are what you are. You were raised in this house, Victor. You learned survival from cruelty. You learned control from fear. And now you want to build a soft little nest for Elena, like you're a normal man. Victor's hand flexed at his side. I swallowed hard. Victor. He didn't look at me. He stared at Adriana with a quiet fury that made me fear what he might do. Then the door opened. The guard returned, carrying the box inside a clear evidence bag. He placed it on the table and stepped back. Scanned, Luca said. No explosives. No toxins. But there's a device inside. Victor's eyes narrowed. Device. Luca nodded.
A phone.
Old style. No GPS. But it's on. My stomach dropped. A phone? Adriana's eyes gleamed. They want contact. Victor stared at the box for a long moment. Then he reached forward and sliced the tape with a small knife he pulled from his pocket. The lid opened. Inside was an old flip phone and a folded piece of paper. Victor took the paper first. His expression changed as he read.
What?
I demanded. Victor didn't answer. His fingers tightened around the note. Adriana stepped closer, trying to see. Read it. Victor's voice was low.
No.
Adriana's eyes narrowed. Victor. He looked at me now, and the look on his face made my stomach twist. They want you, he said quietly. My breath caught. What do you mean? Victor's voice was calm, but his eyes were dangerous. They're offering a trade. Nora's voice came from the doorway. She must have slipped past the guards when she heard commotion. Trade? Victor's eyes flicked to her briefly. They think Elena is my weakness. Nora moved closer to me, protective. They're right. Victor's gaze sharpened. Be careful. Nora didn't flinch. I'm being careful. You're the one who keeps turning her life into a battlefield. I grabbed Nora's hand, grounding myself. Victor, what exactly does the note say? Victor hesitated. That alone terrified me. Then he read it aloud. Each word clipped. Bring Elena to the old pier by midnight. Alone. No police. No tricks. Or we send the video. My blood went cold. Video. Victor's jaw tightened hard enough to hurt. He stared at the phone. Luca stepped forward. Boss, what video? Victor didn't answer. Because I already knew. I remembered the federal building. The day I'd sat in a gray waiting room and told myself I was doing the smart thing, the only thing that could protect me from Victor. I'd been so desperate that I'd taken the meeting. I hadn't signed anything. I hadn't given names. But I had talked. I had admitted fear. I had admitted control. I had admitted that Victor was not a man you could simply divorce. And if someone had been watching, if someone had bribed the right person, there could be footage.
Audio.
A recording. A weapon. I felt dizzy. They have something from the federal building. Victor's eyes locked on mine. Yes. Adriana's face tightened with cold anger. So she did go to them. I spun toward Adriana. I didn't betray him. I was trying to survive. Adriana's voice was sharp. Your survival threatens all of us. Victor moved between us instantly. Stop. Adriana's gaze turned to Victor, hard. If that video leaks, the families will smell blood. Your allies will question you. Your rivals will come. It will be chaos. Victor's voice was quiet, controlled. I know. Adriana leaned forward slightly. Then you know what must be done. The implication hung in the air like poison. My stomach clenched. What must be done? Victor didn't look away from Adriana.
No.
Adriana's eyes narrowed. Victor. No, he repeated, and this time there was steel in it. You will not touch Elena. You will not sacrifice her. You will not decide her fate. Adriana's smile faded for the first time. Then what do you propose? Let the video go public? Let our enemies swarm? Victor picked up the flip phone. He flipped it open. The screen lit up. It was already ringing. A call waiting. Victor pressed it to his ear. Speak, he said, voice deadly calm. A distorted voice answered. Mr. Moretti. Midnight.
The pier.
Bring her. Victor's gaze slid to me. 1 second, heavy with something I couldn't name. Then he said, You don't get her.
The voice laughed.
Then the video goes out in 10 minutes. Victor's jaw tightened.
Send it, he said.
My heart stopped. Victor. He held my gaze and spoke slowly, clearly for me. Because if you send it, he said into the phone, you die. Not later. Not eventually. Tonight. Silence on the line. Then the voice said, quieter now, You won't risk your wife. Victor's eyes didn't blink. He answered with a truth that stunned the room. I already did, he said softly, when I signed those papers. Then his voice sharpened into iron. And now I'm done risking her. He ended the call and snapped the phone shut. Luca stared. Boss, what are you doing? Victor's gaze was locked on the closed box like he could see the enemy through it. I'm ending this, he said. Adriana's voice was cold. You can't end a war with pride. Victor turned to her, eyes burning. Watch me. Then he looked at me again. Elena, he said, voice low, you wanted freedom. My chest tightened. Yes. He nodded once, like he'd made a decision that cost him something. Then you're going to get it, he said. But not the way you planned. Nora grabbed my arm. What does that mean? Victor's eyes were dark, certain. It means, he said, we disappear. Tonight. New names. New country. No more Eddie estate. No Adriana. No divorce paperwork. No half-life. Adriana's expression flashed with fury. You would abandon the family? Victor didn't hesitate. For my child. I stared at him, breathless. Victor stepped closer, lowering his voice, so only I could hear. You said you're not my possession, he murmured. I nodded, tears burning. He swallowed hard. Then choose.